in early September, a couple of US senators went over to Ukraine to visit the guy who's conducting the proxy war, Zelensky. One of them was Senator Lindsey Graham, the other one was Richard something or other. And Lindsey Graham was filmed next to Zelensky. And I quote, it goes along like this at least, that Ukraine is sat on, in his words, $1 trillion worth of US dollars worth of minerals, and therefore which would be a very great help to the US and to the US economy. Yeah, sure it would. And that Ukraine needs the US's help to eject Russia from Ukraine and to make sure they regain sovereignty and all the rest of the usual blah 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 blah. But he let it slip, didn't he? Ukraine is sat on trillions worth, US dollars worth of minerals. Reality is $12.4 trillion worth of minerals, which the US wants. And maybe sprinkle some out to its allies as trinkets for help. It's there. That's the reason they want that for themselves. The side pieces, forget sovereignty and freedom and democracy and not having Russia in the territory. Yeah, that's just a minor secondary thing. Forget about all that. All about having access to that $12.4 trillion worth of minerals. Now, how that could improve the US economy if they could get it damn cheap. I takeover of Ukraine with the US friendly government there, willing to cut the right deals for corporate US, of course. Oh, by the way, BlackRock and Vanguard, they're sniffing around to put money in, of course. They think that's what they want to invest in. Invest. I'll just turn around so you can see. That's not a Russian nuke, by the way. That's the sunset. The sun, according to the timings, should be setting now in Birmingham. Sunset is due in a few minutes here, so it hasn't officially set yet. So if you think it's all about the freedom and democracy and sovereignty and chucking out Putin, it's about the minerals and how much can we get of that as cheap as we can. And of course it's NATO involvement, to say the least. Polish troops are on the ground. Russia knows who's there and where, even if they might take it out off ID stripes and whatever else, they know which country, NATO countries have troops there, unofficially helping, not fighting, of course. No, technical assistance. So, a few days ago, Starmerov flew over to Washington and had a meeting with Joe Biden. Cough, he didn't. The potato in chief is still a potato. So in reality, he had a chat with Blinken about all this, Secretary of State Blinken, discussing whether or not to sanction the use of NATO's long-distance missiles stationed in Ukraine, because missiles are already being fired by Ukraine, their missiles, from their machinery into Russia. But that's Ukraine machinery. So NATO, Starmerov and Biden / Blinken discussing using NATO long distance missiles to strike further into Russia than what Ukraine can. But these can only be set up by NATO personnel, because Ukraine troops don't know how to do it. Need to be set up by NATO troops, specialists, loaded using location data sourced from NATO satellites, because Ukraine doesn't have that sort of thing. So location data from the NATO satellites fed to NATO troops on the ground. NATO troops program the coordinates into these machinery. I forget the name of what it's called off the top of my head. So even though it's Grigory or Medvedev or Vladimir or Leonid, whatever else, is technically pushing the fire button to fire it off towards Russia. All the rest of the back work is done by NATO. NATO supplying the coordinates from their satellites, NATO supplying the missiles, the machine, the big bang bang gung thing, and setting it all up. It's just to create probably a Ukrainian guy being told, well, that's the big red button there, press that and it goes off. The sun is just set now. So Putin has said that if there's any evidence that this is actually taking place, that i.e. it is a NATO operation in supplying the kit, in supplying the coordinate data from their intelligence, from their satellites, striking into Russia, you're taking that as a provocation and strike back. Then we've got Starmerov and the Hawks in Washington discussing whether or not to do this. Keep on poking the damn bear in the name of sovereignty, freedom, freeing Ukraine from the yoke of Russia, blah blah blah. Translation: we want all that nice minerals, thank you very much. As does BlackRock and Vanguard. You can always trace it back to the money. Who can make a big buck out of it? Who can make money in the transactions? Who's greasing whose palm? How do you think Nancy Pelosi made so much cash, even though she's been just the Speaker of the Congress? Absolutely rolling in it. Yeah, it's all about making cash for somebody somewhere and just starting up the draft to send them off to the cannon fodder at the front line to be minced, just so somebody can have cheap minerals and preventing somebody else from having them. We just love it.